5 isekai manga to satisfy your isekai addiction. Let's go. Starting this list off, we have The Black Summoner. This is a very good isekai if you're a huge fan of battle scenes. The main character in this manga is a huge battle junkie, and that's like the entire thing that drives him, is he just wants to keep getting in more and more fights with stronger and stronger people. But this manga starts off with our main character getting isekai'd into this new world. And because he didn't have enough skill points to get all the skills he wanted, he ended up trading some of his memories for skill points. And he also may have fell in love with the goddess that summoned him, but hey, he can't remember that cringe, so he's fine. But he ends up getting these summoner class, and of course, in typical isekai shenanigans, he is very overpowered. Now, there are a lot of isekai tropes, like I said, main characters overpowered, adventurers guild, stats and ranks. He ends up kind of building his own harem of women, but I will say this manga handles them all very well. Yes, it is full of isekai cliches, but it does a very good job of creating a very interesting world and really fleshing out each character. But I do think the best part about this manga is definitely the fight scenes and our main character's attitude. He can be pretty funny and take things very seriously when he needs to. So make sure to check this one out, The Black Summoner, especially if you really like isekais that focus heavily on the fight scenes. Next up, I got a new skill every time I was exiled, and after 100 different worlds, I was unmatched. Our main character randomly gets isekai'd into this new space, and in this space, there is only a chair, a table, and a book. So he picks up the book and starts reading. And in this book, God has given him very specific instructions. He is to go to 100 different worlds, and in each world, he is to find the hero, join the hero's party, gain a certain level of trust, and then after a certain amount of time, he has to get kicked out of the hero's party. And upon doing that, he will be transferred back to this area. And every time he ends up getting exiled, he will gain a new skill, so eventually he will get pretty overpowered. And you would think the story starts at door number 1, but it actually starts at the end of his objective, and it starts after the 100th journey. Our main character gets teleported back to this area, and he gets the option to head back to any of his previous worlds, and then he may go home. So he decides to head back to the first world he ever visited and catch up and see exactly what went down after the heroes defeated the Demon Lord. Unfortunately, that's not what happened, and majority of the heroes party ended up getting wiped out. So our main character sets off to figure out what exactly happened. And I don't want to spoil too much for you because there's only 6 chapters, but each chapter is very good. And this one isn't really filled with too many isekai cliches. It's actually a really good isekai in and of itself. The only complaint that I have is I wish it would have focused more on the 100 worlds. I feel like that in of itself is an amazing concept, and I'm hoping with later chapters we get to explore that more, because just imagine the endless possibilities that you could do with a main character going to 100 different worlds, but we'll save that for a later date. So make sure to check out I Got a New Skill every time I was exiled, and after 100 different worlds, I was unmatched. That is a mouthful of a title. Check it out. Now, this wouldn't be a list unless I included a degenerate manga, and today's degenerate manga is Reincarnation Coliseum, using the weakest skills in order to defeat the strongest women and create a slave harem. Our main character gets isekai'd into this new world, and unfortunately, because he doesn't have any good skills, the only skill that he has is copy, he gets thrown into the Coliseum. And the reason they think copy isn't a good skill is for 2 reasons. 1, whatever he copies isn't going to be as strong as the original, and 2, he's not going to know how to use it. If you were fighting somebody with a random weapon and you were also given the same random weapon, you wouldn't know how to use it like they would. So everybody thinks that the copy skill is completely useless. So he gets thrown in the Coliseum where people fight for others' amusement, and the losers basically become the sex slave of the winner. Now, once our main character hears all this, despite the odds in his favor not looking good, he's in love with the idea because he thinks it's all just like a video game, and that is the approach that he takes to all these fights. And of course, it's one of those isekais where the weakest ability is secretly the strongest, and our main character then proceeds to win all of his fights, and just like the Coliseum rules, the losers become the sex slaves to the winner, and he very slowly but quickly starts building up a harem of a bunch of different women. I don't really think I need to explain what happens after that, but despite the degenerosity of the manga, it's actually a pretty cool concept. Even without all the titties, it's still a really interesting isekai, and I'm enjoying the read, so make sure to check out Reincarnation Coliseum. The next manga that I have for you guys is There Was a Cute Girl in the Hero's Party, So I Tried Confessing to Her. MC gets reincarnated not as the hero or the demon lord, but as a minion to the demon lord. And day by day, the hero's party keeps attacking, and he constantly defeats them and throws them out, only for them to come back the next day and try to get through. And he ends up falling in love with the cleric of the hero's party, and one day out of nowhere he randomly confesses to her. She ends up convincing him to leave the Demon King's army and live his life as a human. And that's exactly what he does. And from then on out, the story follows our main character pretending to be human, living his life in the human world while also being incredibly overpowered, and also trying to make the cleric that he fell in love with fall in love with him. It's a pretty interesting romance comedy isekai. The main character is very likable. He's very funny. There's also a lot of interesting side characters. The only real complaint that I have, I feel like the romance doesn't really evolve that fast. I feel like it's, naturally it's a manga. It's going to go on forever. But I feel like the romance buildup is just very slow. But everything else about this manga I very much enjoy. So make sure to check it out if you want more of a romance comedy isekai. The last manga that I have for you is probably one of the best mangas that I've read in a long time. It is Serial Killer Reincarnated in Another World. Our main character in his original life was a serial killer that ironically hated killing people, but he just couldn't stop the urge. After his little trip with Death Row, he ends up getting sent up to the goddess who has a very special mission for him. She's going to send him to this isekai world with one simple goal: to kill. And the people that he is supposed to kill is the 12 reincarnated heroes that were originally sent to this world. These 12 heroes were way too powerful, and after defeating the Demon King, all spread out and became evil and just absolutely terrible people. So our goddess wants to straighten that out and decides to send our serial killer MC in. Now, she does not give him any powers because she does not want to make the same mistake that she made previously by giving too much power to one person. But she does throw our main character a bone and gender swaps him into a very attractive female. So our serial killer main character sets out on his mission to murder each and every one of the heroes. And he doesn't do it by just being overwhelmingly powerful. He uses very smart tactics and really gets to know his enemy before he actually kills them. The storytelling, the world building, the characters, the fight scenes, everything about this is amazing. This is a completely different take on isekais. That's just not your stereotypical overpowered main character builds a harem. Our main character is incredibly weak and really doesn't have much going for them other than the fact that they can think 5 steps ahead of the enemy. So if you actually want a really good isekai read that you're probably going to become addicted to, check out Serial Killer Reincarnated in Another World. Now, I know I said the previous one was the last one, but I thought this one was so funny I just had to include it as a bonus. So you've probably heard of God's Activity in a World Without Gods. It just recently got an anime, and I've talked about this manga in a previous list. Well, there is a spin-off called Onee-chan's Activities in a Godless World, and it's all about a very buff Onee-chan who purposely reincarnates herself to find her younger brother, who's the main character of the previous series, and she wants to find him and marry him. And she is incredibly overpowered and incredibly buff. It's a very funny spin-off manga of an already really good one, so make sure to check this one out if you're into buff anime girls and want a good laugh. So that is going to be the video. Hopefully I satisfied that isekai addiction of yours, but let's be honest, I probably didn't. That isekai addiction will never be satisfied, but I am always looking out for more isekais, so if you guys want to keep up to date, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you always get notified, and that's going to be the video. See you in the next one.